In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to set up a singly linked list. Before we get started with the basic setup of creating a linked list, I want to give you guys a quick analogy. Imagine a skyscraper with only elevators. It can take you directly to a specific floor. Arrays are similar because we can use an index to go directly to where the data exists. Remember, arrays are index based, starting at 0. So we know that if we have an index for an array, we can go directly to that data. So this is how it relates to a skyscraper with elevators. On the other hand, I want you to imagine another skyscraper without elevators, only stairs. We'd have to go through each floor one by one until we reach a specific floor. Singly linked lists are similar because we must start from the beginning of the list, aka the head, and go through each node until we reach a specific node. All right, so now in this case, for this skyscraper, unlike the arrays which have indexes, singly linked lists do not have any index. Therefore, for that reason, we must start at the very beginning. All right. And when we talk about linked list, whether it's singly or doubly, we'll get into doubly later. It's going to be very similar, but just a slight little tweak in how they differ. But both of these lists have a head, which refers to the first node in the list, and then the tail, which refers to the last node in the list. Okay, and each node within these lists have two properties: a value and a next property. The next property is a pointer, a link. Okay, this is what creates that connection or relationship from one node to the next. Okay, so we have that next property. So to build out this singly linked list class, we're going to build out two classes. First is for the node, okay, because as I said, singly linked list is a collection of nodes, and these individual nodes have a value and a next property. And singly linked list class will have three properties. One called the head, which is going to keep track of the first node in the list, the tail to keep track of the last node of the list, and the link, which is keep track of the total number of nodes inside our list. Okay, so let's go ahead and build out this basic setup. All right, so we're going to start off with the class for a node. Here we'll build constructor, which will take in the value. And we're going to do this dot value equals the value. And then the next property is the next, or the pointer. Next, by default, it's going to be set to null. Okay, but this will be the pointer to the next node to create that chain. And then finally, we have the class for a singly linked list. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call it singly linked list. All right. And here we're going to have the constructor, which won't take any arguments by default. Won't take any arguments. And initially it will have, so we're going to have three properties. So the first one, as I mentioned earlier, is the head. And by default, it's going to be null. Same for tail, null. And then finally, we have the length. And by default, we'll set it to 0. And that is your basic setup for singly linked list.